Setting up your web hosting. Web hosting is one of those components that can make or break your business, and not enough people take it seriously. A lot of people just look at hosting as let me find the cheapest one possible. Let me find the cheapest place possible to store my website. So that I don't have to worry about that monthly fee. And you really have to think about, when you think about it, that sounds ridiculous. Because what you're saying is, let me find the most unreliable, cheapest place, the sandiest ground to build my multi-million-dollar mansion on top of. If you were buying real estate, would you contract and build a $1 million home on eroding sand or eroding ground that's all washing away, and your foundation is going to be in the ocean by next week? I mean, it's the same thing. You got to put the same care, the same effort into selecting a web host that's going to be sturdy, reliable, and sustainable as far as you setting up a business that's going to be here for a long time to come. If you're making $500 a day and your site decides to go down over the weekend, you can't get any support because your hosting company only opens back up on a Monday and it's only Friday, well, you're going to miss out on over $1,000 of profit. And sometimes with some of these other, I know you heard of the famous product launch, broke my server, type of pitch where some of these gurus out there will say, the product launch, so many people went to the site that it crashed the server. Well, that does happen in real life. I don't know if it's happening for those situations, but it does happen because of the hosting plans and servers. And sometimes when you get that much traffic and you don't have a dedicated server or the server isn't set up properly to support that type of traffic, well, your server can just overload, and the people going to your site will see nothing. The web host that you see here is the connecting component between your website and you and your bank account. So you better make sure you take some care to select a good web host. What we're going to show you in this section here is what exactly you need to look for in a web host, and they're going to make a suggestion for you for a company that does this for you and has all the components that we like to look for. The number one thing that we look for in a website hosting company is security. Security. If you're going to be selling, informational service, information products, services, anything, you have to have a secure server. You need to have the ability for you to collect your customers' credit cards and financial information without it being at risk, and you owe that to your customers as well. Because if you went to a store and every time you went to the store you got shoplifted, somebody stole your wallet, how often would you go to that store? And the word would spread that your store is a dangerous place to be in and nobody would come. And it's the same thing online. So you have to offer a secure environment for your customers to purchase your product. Next, we look for speed. The servers have to be top notch. It should at least be a T3 connection. And this is a crucial feature, pretty much because if you get 100 people to your web page and your web page takes 4 minutes to load, how many of you think of those 100 people are going to sit there and wait 4 minutes for your page to load because your server is having some type of issue today? The attention span of people on the internet is just drastically getting shorter and shorter and shorter. They're all over the place. They're on Facebook. They're hopping over to Twitter. Then they get an instant message. Then they shoot over and do an email. Then they're watching a YouTube video. Then they bounce back, and it's all over the place. So if your site is going to take even a minute to load, you might have lost that sale. Or lost that customer, potential client. Another key feature, a new key component, I should say, is space. How much space does your web hosting company that you're looking at, how much do they offer? A lot of the companies nowadays offer unlimited hosting. So it's really not that important. I shouldn't say it's not that important, but it's almost expected, I should say, nowadays that your hosting company comes with unlimited hosting, unlimited file space for you and your website. Average speaking, let's say your site that you create with your mini site and just have a sales letter up or maybe a small store or something like that, you shouldn't take up more than 20 megabytes. 20, 30, 40 megabytes, not more than 50. So unlimited hosting will be overkill. But that'll give you a sense. Now that depends on if you're going to have a lot of videos and media hosted and things like that. But just generally speaking, 50 megabytes should do the trick. You also want to check and make sure that the hosting company has cPanel. cPanel is going to be a lifesaver for you. cPanel, you may not know what it is now, but you'll grow to love it because it's going to allow you to do things on your own and install things like scripts without having to know any programming or PHP or anything like that. And while you're looking for cPanel, you want to make sure that the hosting company provides you with some of those scripts, that it comes preloaded with scripts, because there's so many hosting services now that are giving you cPanels that come with scripts preloaded. And these scripts are nothing but little miniature, they're not actually miniature, but some of them are smaller programs that will allow you to do things, make your site very versatile, like shopping carts and blogs and surveying tools and things like that. So you want to make sure that it has a library of scripts and cPanel. And a lot of times, if it doesn't, the hosting company will go ahead and upgrade it so that it gets to cPanel in the back office section. Next, you want to check and see if they have email services, full email service capabilities, meaning the web host should allow you to set up pop email boxes with unlimited amount of email aliases that you want to put in there. So if your site was Boston Web Design, okay, or Boston Cooking or whatever, your name is Dave. You should be able to get Dave at bostoncooking.com. And then you should be able to get Tom at Boston Cooking and Mary and Sue with an unlimited amount of email addresses on that domain. All right. The next one's an important one. You also want to stick to hosting companies that don't lock you into contracts. All right. A lot of companies are trying to lock you into 2, 3, even 4-year, 5-year contracts, and you don't need to be locked in. You go with the hosting companies. Sometimes the 2 years is fine, 1 year, depending on the company and depending on what you're looking for. But generally speaking, we don't like to be locked into hosting contracts at all. Because what you're essentially saying is, I don't care what happens to your business over the next 24 months, I'm stuck with you. And I can't say anything about it. So if your business is rocking and rolling and you're getting tons of business, but then the hosting company just turns to crap, you're kind of held hostage by the hosting company because of your contract. And that's not a place you want to be in. Another thing you want to look for is downtime. Downtime is when the host is actually down. When does this host, how often, how reliable is the host? A good number to measure a host by nowadays is to make sure that the hosting company is up 99.9% of the time. Any more than that, and it's just not acceptable. Could you imagine going to a hosting company and them saying, all the competitors are saying 99.9% are uptime, or 100% even better. So, and this company says 95.5%. What about the other 5%? Is that when you're having your lunch? Is that when you're opening the doors to your website? Will they be down that 5% when it counts most for you? So, obviously, nowadays, you should go for the 99.9% uptime to 100%. There's really no excuse for the host to go down unless there's in some remote area of the world, and in that case, you may not be wanting to go with that host anyway if they don't have a backup. They call them backup drives and things like that, and backup hosts. And this next one may be the most important secondary item that you want to check for. You want to make sure they offer great support. Okay, can you pick up the phone and call someone at your host? I can't tell you how many times we had to, or at very least, can you email someone and get a reply within 24 hours? You don't want a host that leaves you hanging high and dry over a weekend, and something's going wrong with your scripts, or something's going wrong with your hosting, or issues come up. Especially, this is with the web business, things are going to happen, and if you can't get in touch with your host within a short time period, then you're going to be up a creek, and sales are going to be going out a window. So make sure. I would even say go and test the customer support before you decide on the hosting company. Call customer support. Call them and give them and just see what kind of support you get. Ask them some of these questions. See if you get a person. Email. Try to do live chat. Whatever that particular hosting company has, give it a whirl before you commit to start building your business on top of that hosting company. One of the things that you want to avoid when it comes to picking a web host, absolutely avoid at all costs, is a free web host company. All right, so if it's like freesitesforyou.com and you're Dave the caterer, the worst thing you could do for your business is to offer a site in front of your customers that says freesitesforyou.com/Dave the Caterer. That says Dave is a cheap bastard that can't go and buy a domain name, and he has to get a free site. So why the hell should I give him business? And then that's not the type of image you want to portray to your customers. So don't go with the free host where you have to use their domain name. Even if you did, let's say you just said, you sucked it up and you got to $100, $200 a day. You're on their domain, you're on their hosting. Well, what if some spammer, decided to get the free hosting as well? And he goes out and spams everybody and his mother, everybody, about his new male enhancement pill. And he's also on that host. He just had a different extension, a different directory. Well, now that whole domain, let's say that whole host gets blacklisted, and every domain on that host, every subdomain on that host pretty much gets kicked out of Google, out of the search engines, and including yours, and you're out of business the next day because your neighbor was a scumbag. So this is why you want to be on your own host. And there's tons of other reasons why you don't want to choose a free host, but I just wanted to be clear. Just don't do it. Everything from them being able to jack your content. They can jack your content and just say it's theirs legally, because somewhere on the fine print when you say you're going to sign up with their free hosting company, you agree to allow any content that you post be owned by the company that you're posting it to. So I can't tell you, we had so many people early on try to save money and go with the free hosting companies and then find their content all over the web legally because they gave up the rights to their content by going with free hosting. So it's a nightmare situation. The best thing to do is just avoid it. If you want to find great hosting that has all of these things that we just discussed, you can go to fastersmarterbetter.com/hosting and check out the best recommended hosting company that we deal with and that we highly recommend to you. So again, I can't stress it enough. Choose your web host carefully. I would highly recommend going to the site, just for the reason because this is one of those decisions that once you get it set up and you get rolling, it could be a pain in the butt to go back and try to change it, and you'll be wishing that you end up paying more for the free hosting, ironically, than you would for your own. Okay, so fastersmarterbetter.com/hosting. Find the hosting that's up almost 100% of the time, 99.9%. They have the T3 set up over there, and the customer support is stellar. So now in the next section, we're going to move forward to actually handling your customer service and what you need to have in place as far as email capabilities and everything else that's involved with customer interaction. All right, so let's move on.